Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I'm Janine Liston, your hostess, and I'm so glad to have you here with us today on the show. This show is all about helping you do pricing better in your business. Now, as you mostly know, those of you who've watched me before, you know that there is a difference between the price and pricing. And I want to help you understand how to do pricing better in your business so that you can close more deals at the right prices. Welcome everyone to the show. I'd like to welcome my guest, Adelina, sorry about that, Stefan. Welcome, Adelina.
Hello, Janine. Hello, everyone. So nice to be here today.
Yeah, so Adelina, why don't we go ahead and start? So the topic today that we're going to be talking about is why it might be that even though you're selling to different countries, you might not need this different prices. So Adelina, why don't we start by having you introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, thank you, Janine. So I'm a professional certified coach. I specialize in career development and intercultural facilitation. I'm based in Zurich for the past 5 years, and I help expats integrate in a new culture setting, build and implement their unique career blueprint.
Cool. Excellent. Sorry, I'm trying to plug something in without being obvious, but it wasn't working. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be with me on the show today. And of course, when you're working with expats, quite often you're working with people in many different parts of the world, or maybe you started with them in the location you are, but then of course they've moved on. They still want to work with you. And so then you end up working with people in different parts of the world. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started and came to be focusing on coaching with expats?
Okay, so sure. I started my career in Greece like 10 years ago and working in tourism and being in an international environment. So that's how I discovered my passion for working across cultures. I'm also a linguist by studies, and I always had the chance to study always with foreigners, so at least for the first year of my studies. And then I'm working in tourism. I worked with foreigners, like people with different mentalities, different cultures. Then 5 years before, I moved to Switzerland, and here, being an expert myself, I experienced the challenges of being in a different culture, of course, different from the Greek one, and so the Balkanian, it's totally different with its own challenges. And by finding my career path here and establishing my business, so I started consulting and coaching in Greece, but it was more like a hobby apart from my full-time job. And here I had two ways, like either to find a full-time job or to start my coach's business. So I chose the second one and experience my own challenges in the new culture, and my expertise in HR in recruitment, selection, and training and development. I decided to help expats. It's the being an expat like myself, and challenges and working always across cultures. So this is why I thought that this is my real passion. So
right.
Was easier.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And being new in a country, or even a foreigner, but a long time in the country, how you might go about looking for a job or how you approach that could be very different, or what possibilities or opportunities are there for you can be quite different. So that's really interesting. So one of the things that we really wanted to talk about was the topic of pricing in relation to what do you do when you're pricing to different countries? So why don't you tell us about how that came to be a challenge for you, or an opportunity, depending on the way you perceive it, and what you faced in relationship to that.
So of course, when living in Switzerland with the high cost of living, you aim to target either the Swiss market or similar markets with high potential and high economy. So it's not something that you can not afford actually to spend your time working with other cultures, like based on like with lower wages, because this will take a long of time and have other costs. So first the time and the revenues, and so, but of course, working across cultures, I understood that it depends on who you target, and even if you target people in a country with lower wages or income or other economy, you can still find that your target audience who are willing to pay as long as you deliver value.
Right. I think that the most important thing you said in there is it depends on who you're targeting. And this is a conversation I have with many clients that, they want to sell in different countries, but they feel that if they sell to another country that, say, has a a lower cost of living, they feel obligated to offer their services or their products at a lower price. But the point is that just because the cost of living is lower, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to or even should have a lower price for those countries. It really depends on who you're targeting. So let's talk about what we mean by that. So you said, for example, that, if you're targeting expats, and at least here in the Basel area, there's an official definition for an expat. It's someone who's highly educated, who's come over on a work contract for a fixed period of time, usually with a trailing spouse, not always, and they make a relatively high salary compared to the average norms in that country. And I think that any country that somebody goes to, there's a percentage of the population that fits that category. Would you agree?
Yes, that's true. So this is like overall the general definition of expat. And being an expat means being able to adjust to different cultures. So you need to develop and in order to get the opportunity to be transferred to another country. So it's highly educated, what you mentioned. So this is a very important thing, and I think that expats are really ready to take charge of their career, and they always develop themselves. It's also, so it can come from themselves directly, or also from the company, who like the company can support their professional development. So, and pay for the services.
Right. Yeah. So it can also depend on who's paying for the services. That's also a very good point. And so, one of the things that I look at with clients is, who am I targeting? What are the different segments? And then who are the stakeholders who are making the purchasing decision? Because who makes the decision can have a bigger influence than who's actually going to be using the product or service. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. I think that you've had some other challenges with pricing in your business. Why don't you share a bit about that?
Other challenge? No.
Well, so we were talking about, of course, when you offer products and services, there are people who will think the price is too high, right?
Yes, but I can also say that you can target in Switzerland, for instance, where the cost of living are high and the wages are high, and if you don't target the right people, now this is connected to what I said earlier, you can still face resistance, and you can meet clients who say, I cannot afford your services, even if it's something on a national level, the price is quite good. So I think it's not something that is about the price itself, but it's about their goals and what exactly they are willing to invest.
Right. So I see it as a priority, right? So anytime that you're spending money on something, you're actually making a choice about what's the priority in my life right now. Is it to have food on the table, or is it to, to get a new car? Is it to go out with my friends, or is it to, send myself to school? So every time people, there's this trade-off decision going on in people's heads. And a lot of times with business owners, when they, first get that pushback from clients that, it's too expensive for me, their instinct is to do what? offer a discount.
Yes, yes,
But
that's
actually,
true.
we don't yet know if price is really the issue at hand or not.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think it's an
I believe that,
opportunity.
yeah, yeah. So, of course, there are people who really face financial difficulties and they would like to take the service. And this is something that you can get, like, you can sense from the first discussion with the people, like,
Okay.
based on their education, their willingness to start working together and to invest in their development. And then you can really see that if the financial is an obstacle, at least at the moment, so you can try to find different solutions or give a discount, as you mentioned. But there are situations in which it's not the price, which is the obstacle, like it's their mindset, or it's also as a professional or as a coach, how you try to make the client feel confident that this is of value. So the investment that they will make will have a return, actually, and they will develop a lot. So there are clients who say, yeah, they are fine with the price, and after the coaching sessions, they can say, wow, they have developed a lot, and the price was nothing because they have reached a high level of development within a short period of time.
Right, right. Of course. But of course, they only know that after the fact, right?
Yes, that's true.
So one of the things that we also talked about was when you're talking about the value with your customers, sometimes in coaching, the value comes not from, it does come from the progress that you make, but the risk of doing nothing may actually be a bigger cost than, than the risk of actually taking action and getting that coaching.
Yes.
How do you deal with that with your clients?
So it's very important for them to understand their current situation. So when we start working together, we do a needs analysis, and the coaching service is is tailored to their particular needs. So there is no one fit all, definitely not. And I think this is the main point that they need to consider. So if they are really willing, they are really committed to make this investment and to get the results. Like, it's, as a coach, you challenge the client and you consider that the client leads the conversation, the coaching conversation and the session. So you don't have a hidden agenda, or you don't come with an agenda for the client. I believe that they can take charge of their self and their development. But as a coach, you are there to support them and to identify their unique strengths and how to use them further to develop.
Right, right. So, I mean, I think this is also a question that's in a lot of people's minds is, what really coaching is, which is sometimes why it makes it challenging for coaches to, to sell the service, because it from the client or the pre-client, before they're a client, from their perspective, it feels a little bit intangible, right?
Yes, that's true. So if there are many people who still could confuse coaching and consulting. Like when you come with an expert advice, so this is more consulting, and you're mentoring, so this can come. But the coaching is helping the clients discover their inner self. And actually, I believe that they have their own answers. They couldn't see them before. Like maybe they didn't have time to focus, and just by asking them powerful questions and to listen them carefully, you can identify their struggles. So that's why the first call is very important. And based on that, we can create like a package or a tailored offer that is aligned to their needs, first of all. So they will be confident that they will get the value that they need. If you come, for instance, with a package which is general, like universal for anyone, they are not convinced about how they will serve them. And this is what happens many times. Like I see clients that they have attended a group workshop or something, and they still haven't developed because their personal questions, they are still not answered.
Yeah, that's a very valid point when it comes to expressing or helping people understand value. I mean, there are people who are generalists and make great business out of being generalists, but generalists will generally be able to charge less, than somebody who specifies in a specific area. That's one reason I think that, you focusing on expats is great. It doesn't mean that expats are your only clients. I would guess you sometimes occasionally have other clients as well, but you understand the unique needs that expats have. And so you can help them in a more specific way, which makes the value of your offer better for that target group than, say, a generalist. And I think that that's a really important point to make about value and the impact that it has on pricing.
Absolutely. And I like the ideas of the distinction of generalist and specialist, which you outlined in there. So I think that clients are looking, they want to focus on a specific area. Some feel stuck and really don't know what to do, and they don't know where to start. But still, I think it's when they think about getting some professional support, they need someone who specializes in a certain area and at least have some credentials, maybe some, especially when you work with corporates, the credentials are important, or the credibility at the same time if you don't have any specific credentials. So the credibility and the word of mouth is very powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just summarize what we talked about. So at the beginning, we were talking about pricing to different countries. And basically, when you're pricing to different countries, the first thing that you have to think about is, who am I targeting? So as you said, when you're targeting expats, you may not need to have a lower price, even if you're going to a country that has a different cost of living or a lower cost of living. And it's the same, like we see luxury goods, right? They're pretty much priced the same globally. And that is done because the people that they're targeting globally can afford and are willing to pay those prices. So for those of you who are pricing to different countries, you really need to take into consideration who you're targeting first before you start adjusting those prices up or down, because it can be both ways, right?
Yes, I fully agree with this. So it depends on the credibility, and you have your own brand. So if people know you and they read your success story or the reviews from other people and how you have supported them, and you can even have a short discussion for free at the beginning, so they can understand how you can add value in their lives. So these are some things that can help them make the decision. Right. And if they still feel that, okay, this is something that I cannot afford, or I'm not ready at the moment, so this is also fine. But it always depends on who you're targeting. Yes.
Exactly. So who you're targeting is really the critical thing. Now, we didn't talk about this, but I know some of you are wondering and will be asking the question to yourself at least. So what do I do if I'm not targeting, a group like expats? And one tip I have for you is something called burger economics. If you've never heard of the Big Mac Index, then you might want to go check that out. So the Big Mac Index actually is one way to compare the cost of living amongst countries. And the benchmark here is a McDonald's Big Mac, as sad as that sounds, and they compare the price. And that's one way. There's also cost of living indices that you can go and have a look at, and that will give you an indication when it comes to consumer goods, right? So it may not be the same if you're doing B2B business or you're doing something that isn't in the consumer good area, but in general, that will give you an indication of the price disparity that you might be considering. And I used a lot of qualifiers there, like might be and should and things like that, because just because you're offering prices in different countries does not automatically mean that you've got to have a different price. And that was the point that we really wanted to get across today. So Adelina, and if you look back on when you first started your business and what you've learned since then, what's the one thing that you would like people, or that you wish you knew back then that you didn't, but you know now when it comes to your business?
I think one thing that I would love to have had at that time was some professional support, so I could experience the challenges easier and get some guidance, and it saved me a lot of time. But at the same time, it was part of the development, and experience the challenges on my own, like facing the difficulties, made me lead me to the current decision of focusing of supporting other people who may be in a similar situation. But I think, having a combination, at least like, or a buddy or someone when you move to another country like an expat, it's very, very helpful.
Yeah. And it's funny. I ask this question almost every show, and I would say most people say, get help early on and don't try to do it on your own, because it's true. Now, of course, you have to go through, some of the pain that you go through is an important part of the journey, but it doesn't mean you have to struggle with everything. All right, Adelina. So where can people reach you if they want to find out more about you and how you work with expats?
They can reach me on my website or on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Or Facebook as well.
Right. I'll also add it into the comments after the show so that you have the direct link there in the comments, everyone. Adelina, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your own experience with pricing. We can learn so much from hearing what each other have faced and how we have dealt with those challenges. So thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you, Janet.
You're very welcome. All right, everybody, that's the show that we have for you today. I've got one last thing before you go. So I've got a new program, or a program launched this week. You can head on over to JanineListon.com, my pricing strategy, as you see here on the screen. I'll also put that in the comments. This is a 6-week group online program where I walk you through building your own pricing strategy. So this is great if you're just getting your business started, if you're struggling. This program is really focused on helping you understand, is my business model going to be profitable, and what it's going to take in order to do that. So this is a very great program with lots of good content. It will make you and help you feel so much more confident in the prices that you do offer, because you'll know exactly what your prices are based upon. So head over to JanineListon.com, my pricing strategy, to get all the details and get yourself registered. That's what we have for you on today's show, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, enjoy pricing, everyone. Have a great day.
Goodbye.